Nice to see you all. Nice to see you folks online. I'm really looking forward to doing a session on the Heart Sutra. Of course, it's one of our mainstays. It's one of our go-tos. And I really love talking about ways to unpack it and ways to zoom in on different parts of it and to really use it to enrich your practice. So we'll do the Heart Sutra as part of our motivation and part of kind of reviving our connection to it. We'll do Refuge in Bodhicitta and then just sit for a little bit, gathering ourselves before we get into the session. So I'll do share screen of the Heart Sutra. And do you guys recite it normally or do you chant it? What is your norm here? Usually recite? Okay. I will not throw you a sudden tune. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagawan was dwelling on massive Vulture's Mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristics. Unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awake to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gate gate paragate parasam gate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagawan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagawan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharivadiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagawan. Ji Pukin Joshi Meto Dram Ri Rab Ling Jini De Gambadi Sangye Jingdo Mi Te Uwangi Roku Namla Jila Juba Sho Yadam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamni Tayani Sangye Churan Sogi Chunama Janchu Padu Dani Kapsuchi Dagi Chunyan Gi Pesonam Drola Penchia Sangye Jupash Sangye Churan Sogi Chunam Janchu Padu Dani Kapsuchi Dagi Chunyan Gi Pesonam Rola Benchia Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chodam Sogi Chodam Janchu Badu Doni Kapsuchi Dagi Janyan Gi Pesonam Gi Rola Benchia Sangye Drupasho. And so let's spend a minute letting the motivation connect and deepen. Okay. So we study wisdom. Why? Because we want to cut the root of samsara, cyclic existence. Why? Because it's suffering, right? Because we are suffering. We are conditions for other people to suffer. We cause all sorts of trouble and mischief, whether we intend to or not, and we'd probably prefer not to. Yes. So this kind of wisdom is a big ask in some ways, but a great relief in another, because it's asking us to really look at, who do you think you are? Because a lot of the trouble in your life, actually all the trouble in your life, is about misunderstanding who you think you are. So the root of cyclic existence, or the root of this problematic pattern of thinking the wrong way, the root of this is what is called sometimes the misapprehension of self, or self-grasping, or the reifying view of the perishing aggregates, or viewing your I in your own mental continuum and holding it to exist inherently. But really what it is you're confused. You're very confused about how you are in relation to others. It really feels like we have no connection unless we build one, or we have no connection unless there's blood, or we have no influence on each other and people don't have any influence on us, or we are completely a victim of other people and we have no choice about our own reactions. We kind of flip-flop, yeah? And we kind of have a weird relationship to the idea of free will. Do we have free will? Do we not have free will? Are we in control of our moods and I'll think whatever I want to think and I can have whatever state of mind I want to have? Or I have absolutely no choice in the matter and I'm just kind of buffeted by circumstance and, just kind of, a victim of circumstance. We have really weird ways of thinking about ourself, our emotions, our thoughts, and it's to be expected because it is an innate ignorance that has been with our mental continuum from beginningless time until now, and it's removable. the mental continuum of this particular mind, of that particular mind, of all the particular minds that are out there, all the sentient beings, they're of an identical type, but they've had really different story arcs. Right? They've had really different chapters, really different experiences. But the essential quality of mind is clarity and awareness. That's just kind of neutral and interesting. Clarity and awareness, the ability to reflect, to cognize, to know. We all have that just built in to the characteristic of consciousness. Also built into the characteristic of consciousness is Buddha nature. Right? Buddha nature is the fact that this mind lacks inherent existence, so it can actually develop. We can actually change. We can have self-directed evolution of this mind. But so far, we've also had this innate ignorance clouding things as if a veil. So the way things exist and the way things appear are completely dissonant. The way things appear is that everything is independent just as it seems. And the way things are is that everything is completely interdependently arisen. Yeah, that everything depends on parts, on context, on mind labeling it. And that all the impermanent things, the changeable things, also depend on causes and conditions. So this might sound kind of philosophical in a way that makes it too esoteric or not enough kind of connection to daily life. But if you're thinking about what causes you stress, it's just a reflection of this innate ignorance. So take, for example, these beautiful flowers someone has placed on my desk. I'll hold it up for the Zoomers. Beautiful flowers. Yes, we all agree. What if someone didn't agree? Then what? Right? If you think flowers are beautiful from their own side, divorced from context, you've opened up potential for conflict. Yeah. If you think they're beautiful merely labeled by the mind, then you can be a lot more flexible with other people's opinions. If someone says, no, they're not so good, those are boring flowers. If someone says, no, they're really unique, you have no idea how special they are. You know, they can have all sorts of varieties of opinion. And you go, really? Cool. Right? It's no big deal. But as soon as you lock down on your opinion, you open up potential for conflict, which is not to say you shouldn't have opinions. We need to have opinions. We need to have the opinion that a stop sign means stop. It's a good opinion. We should keep that opinion. But a lot of our opinions we hold as self-evident. And that self-evident characteristic is an indication of the ignorance. That it is obvious that flowers are beautiful. It is obvious that they are good. And if you're not happy because of them, there's something wrong with you, right? It's obvious. Now that is a silly example because no one is that concrete about their opinions about flowers unless they're really a flower aficionado, right? Some of them are a little bit like that, right? But we are like that about who is a good person, who is a bad person. Who is someone who gives me support and comfort? Who is someone who makes me fearful and suspicious? They made me feel this way. Rather than you made yourself feel this way because of your opinion of them. Yeah. You can think of any old example. Let's make up a story. Let's pretend we're walking outside in the parking lot and we see a car drive in to Tupten Norbeling, and it looks like the car of our closest friend. And we see the car of our closest friend driving in and we go, it's Fred. We're so excited. Yay. And then they park and open the door. It's not Fred. Wah, wah. Right? But you are just as happy with the idea of it being Fred as if it was actually Fred. Right? So who made you happy? Who made you sad? The person in the car or your opinion about the car and what it contained? It's a silly example, but you can imagine it happening. You know, if your worst enemy or a difficult relative or someone you've got a lot of friction with was across the street from you, just walking down the street, you see them, you start to tense up. I hope they don't notice me. I hope we don't have to have an interaction. Or maybe I'm going to work myself up to having an interaction and having that tough conversation. Yeah. And you start building this whole story. And then as they stop at the crosswalk and you see their profile, you realize it's not even them. and you've gotten yourself all stressed out about someone who isn't even there. Now, what if it was the difficult person? It's actually the same story. You made yourself stressed, but you gave them the credit. Yeah, you made me feel this way. No, you made you feel this way. So it's not to say that conditions don't exist. It's not to say that bad behavior shouldn't be addressed or that good behavior shouldn't be celebrated or that you're not allowed to have rapport more with some people than others. All of that is fine. The issue is the tightness and the certainty and the concreteness that we bring to all of those opinions as if they were self-evident, as if they existed that way in and of themselves. We want to start to break the spell. We want to start to break up that pattern of wrong belief in ourselves and in others. So the way to do that is indicated in the Heart Sutra. How to meditate on breaking the spell of believing the appearance of inherent existence is built right into this sutra, but it might not be obvious right away because it's the sort of language and sort of formula and format that is not the way that we grew up in school learning how to do stuff. But if we go to just one sentence in the Heart Sutra, this sentence, Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage being the bodhisattva lineage, people who want to become enlightened, who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom, the wisdom that cuts through the ignorance, should look upon it like this: correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent existence. So if you want to practice wisdom, correctly and repeatedly behold those five aggregates also as empty of inherent existence. Five aggregates, most of you know, some of you don't, some new people, some old Dharma students here, so it's a mixed group. But the review is, the five aggregates or the five skandhas, it's the body and the mind, right? It's the body and the mind. Form aggregate, feeling aggregate, discernment aggregate, compositional activities aggregate. We have the, which one did I miss? Consciousness, the most important one. These five, this is just the basis that we label I on. And, the aggregates that we kind of highlight, it's not like that's the whole story of the mind. Like we pick two mental factors, feeling and discrimination, as part of the list of five, because feeling is a big part of our life. And how we discern or discriminate or recognize things is a big part of our life. Those two kind of take turns feeling like self. How you feel is how you are, or how you think is how you are. That's kind of when you think self, self, self. Who is the self? Who is the self? When you're young, you might think the body is the self. Yeah, when you're, up until, 25, 30, you think the body is the self. And then the body starts crapping out. And you're like, I would like to identify with another component, right? Yeah, you're not so handsome now. You're not so beautiful now. Or you're not so strong now. You're not so whatever. The shine's more off. So you're like, no, I'm my mind. I'm my mind. Which part of my mind? Oh, either my feelings or the sensations of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. That's a dominant characteristic of my experience. Or how I'm labeling, discerning, and recognizing the different things in life. Doesn't it kind of feel like, it's one of the two is kind of prominently I? And then on a really spacious day, on a really relaxed day, you might think consciousness is self, consciousness itself, that kind of reflective, expansive characteristic of mind. And then maybe if you're a philosopher, you think compositional factors are I. Compositional factors is basically all the rest of the mental factors. So we kind of highlighted feeling and discrimination, but compositional factors is all the other ones, like love, like anger, like intention, like attention, like mindfulness. It's like a whole grab bag of mental factors. We might think, I am all of my mental activity, right? And all of that makes sense in a certain way, but we've kind of overemphasized it. So the sutra is saying, correctly and repeatedly behold, look, think, meditate on the five aggregates as empty of inherent nature. And so then they do the first one, and this is the famous line, form is empty, emptiness is form. Well, form, what are they talking about? They're talking about your body They're also talking about matter in general, but use the problem. The problem is over-identification with aggregates. So we're just picking an aggregate. Let's pick the body. The body is empty. Why? Because the body dependently arises. Where did the body come from? The body came from the substances of your mother and father. It came from much food, right? It came from the basic elements, fire, water, air, etc. The body is not really as yours as it feels. And it doesn't take a big, long analysis to get to that. You know what I mean? It's like, this is my body, this is my body. But then what part of it did you make all by yourself? There's no part of your body you made all by yourself. You might have exercised some parts of it and not exercised other parts of it. You might have added hand cream. You might have taken off socks, but you didn't make your body. Yes? Can it help to think that way? Like, this thing is kind of more like a car. And I've either maintained it or I haven't maintained it. It needs an oil change or it doesn't need an oil change, right? Or like I should add some liquid to it to keep it running. But if you think of it more in terms of a vehicle, then you become less self-absorbed with whether people like it or not. And that's, assuming that you're not the sort of people that are obsessed with your car, right? Which, of course, is a whole other kettle of fish, right? We got to start where we are. If you need to start with your actual car, start with your actual car. That's fine. But you know what I'm saying? Like think of a 17-year-old boy who's gotten a muscle car, like a Firebird or something, and he's really shined it and waxed it, and he's saved up for ages and ages to get it, and it's like his baby. Can you think of this kind of archetypal adolescent boy with a fancy car? And it is him, isn't it? That car is him. And if you say that car is stupid or out of date or silly, he's going to be mad, right? But hopefully, we're grown-ups now. So even if we love our car, we're not like, it's me. We're like, I like it a lot. Don't scratch it, but it's just a car, right? Now shift that to the body. Become mature like that about the body. There are parts of it that work better than others, but it's a good old vehicle. It gets us from here to there. We could maybe take care of it a little bit more. But how do we need to look? How do we need to appear to others? After a certain point, you kind of mature into, I hope I look friendly, right? I hope I look friendly, not grumpy. That's my main aim. Friendly, not grumpy, no food on face, take spinach out of teeth. Right? That's the main kind of, cut fingernails when they get too long, wash regularly, just for the sake of others, right? And myself, right? But as you start kind of loosening your grip on identification with the body, then you can go more subtle and you can really start to ask yourself, which opinions and concepts do I feel like are me inherently? Okay, certain political beliefs, certain religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs, preferences. What about how you grew up? Rich people are good, rich people are bad. Poor people are good, poor people are bad. Education is essential, education is unnecessary. We have all sorts of funny opinions that might have gotten into us as children that we just haven't re-examined. Yeah, and we just kind of take for granted as obvious, self-evident truths. But with just a couple of seconds of pulling it apart, you go, oh yeah, that's not always true. Whatever opinion you have, pretty much for the most part, you're like, oh, it's not always true. Okay, not always true. Yeah. And if you can get that softening of the edges of your opinions, it really helps you soften the edges of over-identification with the mental factor of discernment. Similar feeling. Oh, I feel pleasant. Therefore, I'm attached to the things that seem to have made me feel this way, and I want more of them. Or I feel unpleasant. Therefore, I push away the things that seem to have given me this feeling. And we have this kind of knee-jerk response of feeling turns into an affliction. It doesn't have to. There's lag time. You can say, oh, I feel pleasant, and just know that. And not give credit to whatever is around you, whatever people are around you, that this is why I feel this way, in and of itself, divorced from context. Yeah, it becomes more spacious. And then if you're feeling, grumpy or you're feeling achy, there are reasons for feeling grumpy and achy, but they're not as overly simplistic as the mind makes it. Yeah, because you might say, oh, I'm grumpy because I didn't get enough sleep. But there are times when you haven't gotten enough sleep and have not been grumpy. Right? And you might say, oh, well, I'm happy because so and so is in town. There's been times when they've been in town and you've not been happy. Right? So you're just trying to use logic to free things up a bit so that you land on your opinions of your own mental experiences more lightly. It means that you can play in conversation, you can play in ideas, you can share with each other with a lot more harmony and collaboration. That's the everyday impact. The ultimate impact is that you start to get down to the fact that there is absolutely nothing on this earth that stands alone in and of itself. And that is fantastic news. And then you break the spell with yourself, you break the spell with others, you break the spell with all of the circumstances and phenomena in your life. And you really stop that pattern of making things so concrete and then having afflictions and suffering follow after. So correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also is empty of inherent nature. Form, yes, form is empty, emptiness is form. But guess what? Also, in the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Those are the five aggregates, body and mind. And, we're not going to go into every single section of it in a short course, but if you kind of jump down, then he goes into the no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. And you're like, but I do have an eye, I do have an ear. What do you mean, Buddha? Wait, Buddha's not even talking. Who's talking? Avalokiteshvara is talking. Wait, what's happening? Okay, let's go back. Right. And so picture the scene. Picture the scene. What's happening in the Heart Sutra? There are three people on top of a mountain, surrounded by a bunch of other people, some of them with the ability to levitate. We don't know. It's a small area. If you've ever been to Vulture's Peak, it's not like huge. Yeah. But there's the Buddha. He's sitting there in meditation. There's Avalokiteshvara Chenrezig, who in that context is kind of pretending to be a bodhisattva as opposed to being a full-fledged Buddha. He's adopting the attitude of being the senior student. And then there's Shariputra, who probably was quite realized by this point, but is kind of adopting the aspect of being junior student. And so imagine the three of them there as kind of the stars of the show, modeling the dynamic of enlightened being, senior student, junior student debate as a way into wisdom. And then everyone else is watching curiously what's happening here right now. And so Shariputra, the junior student, says, I want wisdom. How? And Avalokiteshvara says, here's how. And then at the very end, the Buddha says, well said. Right? Which I think is really a beautiful model for us because it shows that the Buddha's not like, I've got the copyright on wisdom and enlightenment. No one else can get wisdom and enlightenment, only me. He's not attached to being the like grand explainer of cool philosophy. He's delegated. Yeah, he's like, Avalokiteshvara, you've got it. You explain. You've got it. Yeah, and Shariputra, you have the ability to integrate this wisdom. Just listen well. The Buddha says very little, right? And the whole sutra just kind of gives it his stamp of approval. And I love this model so much because it's what plays out in daily life now. There's the senior student asks a question, the junior student asks a question, and often you work it out amongst yourselves. And then sometimes you need the validation or confirmation from the senior, kind of quite finished or nearly finished teacher to say, yeah, like that, do it like that. Proceed. Right? We can all become Buddhas. So it's a really beautiful kind of model that questioning is encouraged, debate is encouraged, and that no one person is the only one with the wisdom. No one person is the only one with enlightenment. So it's a very short story, the Heart Sutra, but it's the story of how to break negative patterns from the very root, opening up so many layers and possibilities for happiness. Questions so far? Thoughts so far? Yeah. Well, this There we go. No, that's okay. Is that better? Form is empty, emptiness is form. um, yeah, totally. I'm just curious, who in this room has studied the Heart Sutra a little? At least a little? Yeah, most of you a little. And who's studied the Heart Sutra not at all, at all? Couple? Yeah. And anyone who's had teachings from like Geshe-la or from one of the senior Tibetan lamas on the Heart Sutra? Couple? Oh yeah, quite a few. Yeah. Geshe-la's the bomb. He's got you covered. So we can do a little bit of a deeper dive, and the newer folks, I bet, will be influenced by the grounding of the older students. So newer folks, if you get lost, just be along for the ride, but also you might be carried by the wave of the understanding of the older students just by being in this group atmosphere. I wanted to kind of frame things for you to kind of make sure that we don't get too lost. Like, what are we doing here? So if we think about the Buddhist worldview in the broadest sense, you can kind of break down any topic into understanding where it goes in terms of basis, path, and result. And this is a very useful frame for us to try and understand Buddhist philosophy. So basis just means understanding reality. This is Buddhist philosophy. And it doesn't actually say, now go do something, now go meditate, now go change your behavior, now go take vows, now go into retreat. It's just laying the scene. And it's why so many people who are not in our world think that Buddhism is just a philosophy and not a religion, because they're only looking at the content related to the basis. Yeah. Then we get the path. Right? The presentations on the path, and that's understanding practice or what to do with that information. Yeah. And then the result is understanding enlightenment or understanding Buddhahood, understanding what will happen if you practice well. So the basis is where we get the whole conversation of the two truths, relative truth and ultimate truth. And relative truth is what is true for an ordinary being, for us. So it's actually not true, right? Relative truth is not true. Relative truth is deceptive, right? Ultimate truth is what is true for an Arya meditating on the emptiness of inherent existence. So an Arya being is someone who's realized emptiness directly, right? While they're in meditation, only ultimate truth appears. So when we say the two truths, the shortcut to understanding it is to say true for who? True for who? True for someone who's realized reality or true for someone who hasn't? And based on that, then you can kind of organize your path. So true for who? Too many words. Okay, so the path is where we have this conversation of the two accumulations or the two wings, method and wisdom. And so method is related to relative truth, deceptive truth, true for us. True for us really implies we need to practice things that work with the fact that we're still under the influence of ignorance. So we need compassion, we need loving kindness, we need basic ethics, we need all the good, friendly stuff that is very accessible, and at the same time, work on the correct view of emptiness, even though we haven't realized it yet. So it's a little bit like we know the wisdom that we're trying to pursue, we know the reality that we're trying to see, but because we don't see it yet, we need a little bit more fuel. And that fuel is practice, practice, practice. So for us, we might understand philosophically that all things, all phenomena, all people lack inherent existence because they dependently arise. We might get that philosophically. And we might even believe it in real time in the middle of an intoxicating conversation with someone brilliant or an annoying conversation with someone who aggravates us. It might kind of spark into awareness, this is empty of inherent existence because it dependently arises. Neither of these conversations need be a mandate for attachment grasping or aversion and anger. They can just be conversations that I can respond to any number of ways. So with enough familiarity with this philosophy, it can kick in the moment of truth when you need it. But you have to fabricate it. You have to remember it on purpose. You need to bring it into awareness. Once you've realized it directly and perceptually, the spell is broken. So even though things appear to be inherently existent, you don't believe it at all. Not for a second. And so the common analogy you've probably heard many times is the way we feel when we look in a mirror. When we look in a mirror and our face appears in the mirror, we don't believe that our face has duplicated and gone into that little frame and now there's two faces. Right? We don't believe that. That would be silly and nonsense. Right? So it looks like there's another face there, but we don't believe there's another face there. For a cat, it's different. Right? A cat looks in the mirror. It's like, is there another cat? Is that me? I feel unsettled. I want to attack. I want to play. I want to run. Have you ever held your cat up to the mirror, right? On a Sunday afternoon? I don't know. Right? They don't get it, right? So they have completely bought into appearances, right? They think something else is there besides their own reflection. So use this analogy for if once you've realized emptiness, but you're not a Buddha yet, it still looks like there's the face in the mirror, but you don't believe it at all, that it's a whole other face. You're like, that's just an appearance. It's just an appearance. When you're a Buddha, you see both. You see both what ordinary beings see, the reflection, and you see the absence of inherent existence simultaneously. And that's, going to be a magic moment. We'll give it a minute. It'll take a while, right? But for an Arya being, they only actually see emptiness when they're in meditation on emptiness. The rest of the time, it just informs all their other thoughts. So it's an interesting kind of frame of, okay, method side of the path, in a way, is most of the path for us for a long, long time. Developing patience, developing kindness, developing equanimity is so, so important. And it can be so much stronger if we bring wisdom to it and develop both wings or both accumulations simultaneously. For example, I want to be generous and kind to my sister, right? Generous and kind to my sister. So being generous and kind to my sister means I'm going to offer to look after her kids on a busy day. That will help, right? Solid plan, right? And if I remember wisdom, I remember I'm only able to do this because I was introduced to the fact that childcare is helpful, that she exists, that the children exist, that I have enough free time to offer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so then when you make the offering, you don't get too proud of yourself. Like, I'm such a nice sister helping out. I'm amazing. If people only knew how amazing I was. No, you learned how to be generous. You had the conditions to be generous. Then you also think, all right, I'm assuming this is what she wants. She might want something completely else, or she might have a whole other child care provider organized, and now I'm complicating things. If you're remembering emptiness because dependent arising, then you're aware of the broader context of this offering of generosity and kindness might not land in the way that she wants, and I can know that going in and not be upset if that's the case. But when you go in with a tightness, grasping at inherent existence, this is good, you should like it, right? And they say, you know what, I'm actually okay. I don't really need childcare this time. Thanks so much. Yeah, dad's got it covered, blah, 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 whatever. If you're really hanging on to your story of being the savior of mankind, you're going to be annoyed at her for not letting you help her. Yeah, you're going to be mad at her. You were supposed to be helping her. Now you're mad at her because she doesn't need your help. We have these situations in our life all the time, right? So if you're wanting to do the kind, good thing, it's not like wisdom tells you not to. Wisdom tells you, see a bigger part of the story, see more of the story, and stop making yourself the main character. Stop making yourself the main character, the hero or the savior or the victim. You are not the main character. No one is the main character. Yeah, you're just pieces all together, interacting, trying to help each other suffer a little less and have a bit more joy, while actually going to the depths of practice and uprooting the causes for all of this illusion to begin with. So, however fancy and esoteric it sounds, keep bringing it down to the real life experience of, I oversimplify the story of me. I oversimplify the story of others. And I create this illusion of separateness, which is really not there in the way that it seems. And I forget the greater context of things, which makes me over-identify with my actions. So if you can just kind of land lightly on, okay, here's my offering, and then say, sister says, yes, great, childcare, that would be wonderful, thank you so much. I can't believe you thought of that. That's so helpful. Oh my goodness. And she just gushes. Yeah, and you're amazing. And you're like, do you know what? I can also make them dinner. She's like, you're amazing. I'm like, do you want me to bring groceries on the way? I'll even bring groceries on the way. Oh my God, your pride might start getting kind of really excited about that. You're like, I am a good sister. I'm the best. I'm the best. Who else knows? I should tell them in stealthy ways, humbly somehow, so they secretly know how amazing I am. Like your eye gets bolstered, and it's like forgetting you're only able to do all of these good, kind things interdependently. You didn't make the groceries. Right? You didn't make the car that the groceries went into. Even if you made the money that bought the groceries and made the money that got the car, that was through work and service that was interdependent. There's no part of this story that you did independently. But it's the independent feeling that gives you the pride, or the feeling of self-loathing if it's not received well. If you didn't have that feeling of I did it by myself, then you're not setting up the target for the afflicted kind of response. Does that make sense? So we just kind of keep it spacious. Yeah. Microphone to this gentleman here.
Was it a choice to help independent?
Was it?
I'm asking.
Anybody's choice to do anything independent. Was your choice to come here independent? This is the thing, is it like it feels like we do make choices all by ourselves, but we forget all of the influences that led us to that choice, right? So there is no choice made independent of influence. It's like you say today, all of us came here today. If we had looked out the window and it was a hailstorm, some of us would have made different choices, right? If whoever lives in the house with us said, hey, I want to come too, that might have made you go, great, let's all go together. Or, oh no, that's going to be harder work, right? We always have influence. And part of this illusion that I'm talking about is this feeling that I made this choice alone. Therefore, I'm either the hero or I'm the victim because I did it by myself. And no choice is ever made alone. But there is choice. And this is this middle way, razor's edge that we're trying to live in. So you can say, yes, relatively, I decided to go offer childcare to my sister, but only because this whole series of stories and influences and context got me to that point. And in thinking in those terms, the whole story widens and all of the feeling of identification softens. And then whether you make the right choice or the wrong choice or a well-received choice or a poorly received choice, you have a lot more flexibility and spaciousness that knows, oh, I just didn't have enough pieces of the story. Oh, fair enough. I'm not bad, I'm not good. You don't double down on then the choices equal identity. A good choice means I am a good person. A good choice means things came together. A bad choice means things didn't come together. Not I am good, I am bad. Yeah. Do you have a follow-up? Yeah.
Well, if I understand, there's a certain level of independence, right? There's two people side by side. Let's say they've been influenced by the exact same confluence of circumstances you just described.
Yep.
But one person decides I'm going to help, and the other person decides they're not.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, this is the conundrum. Like, think of twin studies, where identical twins who are raised in the same family with the same context and the same diet and the same climate and all the same. Some twins are very similar to each other in personality, and some twins are very different from each other in personality. How come? And the ignorance in our mind would say, oh, there must be some core there that makes them different. There must be some intrinsic, fundamental self there. And what it is that we missed seeing conditions that informed their experience up until this point. So no one ever goes into a circumstance clean of here's two people at the same time with the same choice and they make different choices. It's never as clean as that because they all came in with their baggage. And we would say baggage from beginningless time. So there is free will, there is independence, there is choice, and that's why karma is created and carries with you on your mental continuum. And at the same time, that independence isn't intrinsic independence. That free will isn't complete free will because it is so infinitely influenced by countless causes and conditions that preceded it. So this can make you feel kind of crazy, right? But you don't go into, well, then nothing matters, nothing exists, or everything exists way too much, or don't get weird about it. Just kind of go, so how about I just kind of become more playful with where I do have choice, where I do have intention, and see if I can bring more positive influences to this bag of bones, to this set of aggregates. Let me influence it well, even at the same time knowing I am not in full control of all the influences. So where there is pockets of opportunity to adjust behaviors, you take them. And when there isn't, you don't beat yourself up for it because you're going against waves of habit and waves of conditioning. And so is everyone else. So all of this is to kind of point us to, we need to be kind of focused and intentional about our thoughts, because this is really what creates our reality. And so our thoughts along the lines of compassion and wisdom together, they need to mutually reinforce each other. It's why Avalokiteshvara, Chenrezig's mantra, has both compassion and wisdom. Om Mani Padme Hum, right? You need both method and wisdom to get to enlightenment. And if you only had wisdom, it would become a little too abstract or a little too cold or a little too intellectual. And if you only had compassion, it could become a little bit vulnerable or a little bit egocentric or a little bit boundaryless. You need them both together, yeah. So in our practice, what method is, or compassion is, and what wisdom is, and what the realization of emptiness is, it's a growing thing. But if you just kind of keep it as a mental project of, is my good, kind heart being informed by my solid, clear wisdom? Is my solid, clear wisdom being informed by my good, kind heart? And are they staying together? Or is one getting a little too emphasized and I'm getting a little lopsided in my practice? And that's the approach in Buddhism that leads us to full awakening. That level of things makes some sense. Yeah. So then what happens? What happens if you practice method and wisdom lots and lots and lots? You start these developmental stages of the 5 paths, which is what the mantra of the Heart Sutra means. And I'm going to go through these probably next week, but just kind of the rough understanding of the Heart Sutra mantra. There's Taya Ta Om, but then Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi refers to the 5 pathway awarenesses, which are these developmental stages to enlightenment. So the mantra itself is saying this is how you go. So we'll circle back to this because this needs its own kind of conversation. But after you practice method and wisdom well, you get the 2 bodies, 2 Buddha bodies. So the Rupakaya, or the form bodies, for example, the Nirmanakaya aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha, who people could communicate with and receive teachings from, and the Dharmakaya, or the wisdom body. So that's freedom for oneself, freedom of all suffering, of all ignorance for oneself, like the Jnana Dharmakaya of Shakyamuni Buddha. So the Rupakayas take form, right, like the form of the Buddha. The Dharmakaya is not with form. There is no form for the Dharmakaya. These are wisdom bodies. And basically, the form bodies are the result of having practiced method. They're the result of having practiced compassion and kindness and all the good, kind stuff. And then the wisdom bodies are the result of having practiced the wisdom realizing emptiness. So that Dharmakaya is your own freedom from suffering and ignorance. That Rupakaya is your ability to benefit others in whatever way suits their minds and their karma is receptive for. And it might feel like, oh, gosh, well, do I have to wait to be a Buddha to be helpful? No, of course not. We can start playing with this already and say to ourselves, okay, for this person, what aspect of me do they need? And for this person, do they need a different aspect? It's a little bit like you've got friends who you sit around and tell jokes and watch sports and eat snacks and are a bit silly with. And then you might have your like philosophy friends or your brainy friends, and you might sit differently and speak differently and have different snack choices. It's not like you're two different people, right? But they're different aspects of you. And then say you're with like aging relatives. If you're with aging relatives, you might, change your clothing choices. You might wear something with buttons. I don't know. Old people like buttons, right? I don't know. Something fancy. I don't know. I don't know. Formal wear. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. You brush your hair, right? Yeah. If you have hair, I don't have hair or buttons. I don't know what I'm talking about, but But you go to your old family member, and you might change how you speak, right? You might be really conscious to speak deliberately, to speak a little more loudly, to not swear so much. Again, it's like another aspect of you. It's not you. So when you're a Buddha, you're able to very accurately pinpoint what aspect people need. Some people need your Tara aspect. Some people need your medicine Buddha aspect. Some people need your Chenrezig aspect. But as a Buddha, you will know who needs what when in a really pinpointed way, which is like this very elevated form of what you already do. We already just kind of code switch naturally without even thinking about it a lot when we're with different groups. Do you know what I mean? So Buddhists can do this much more organically, freely, and accurately. But right now at our level, we can really be thinking, okay, who am I talking to? Read the room. Am I talking to people who I can elevate the conversation to ideas, to connection, to all the good stuff? Or am I with people who will find that exasperating, right? And then you just code shift and see, how can I bring out the best in any group of people? How can I bring the best out of myself? And if you're thinking in those terms, you're really living in acknowledgement of interdependence. And you're quietly undermining that grasping at an inherently existent self. You're much more seeing us all as this kind of organism that's interconnected, and you want the whole organism to be healthy. Yeah. Does that make some sense? Questions? Zoomers, how you doing? Have I lost you? Doing all right? Thumbs up from Zoomers. Yep. Good job. Good. Okay. So this is more charts. We don't need more charts today. Okay. Here's the summary. Okay. So basis is the two truths, relative truth, ultimate truth. That's just philosophy. Path, the two accumulations, method and wisdom. That's your practice. The result of your practice is the two Buddha bodies, form bodies and truth bodies, Rupakayas and Dharmakayas. Okay. So that's what the Heart Sutra is for. Yes. Rupakaya form body, it's either the Nirmanakaya or the Sambhogakaya, the emanation body or the enjoyment body of a Buddha. So it's either like a literal human being who's enlightened explaining things who we don't usually have the karma to see, or it could be a manifestation of the Buddha for your benefit, like a book that falls out of a bookshelf at just the right time and you open it up and it's got just the words you need for that day. So it's like the way the Buddhas connect to you, given your karma and your receptivity in that moment. So a lot of the prayers and practices we do are to allow ourselves to be influenced by the Rupakayas of the Buddhas. So imagine these Buddhas just wanting to help all the time, loving you so much, wanting to help, being fully wise, and you're just kind of like, wow, I'm really suffering. Oh, wow, I'm really suffering. This is really rough. And the Buddhas are like, let us in. Let us in. We want to help. We want to help. And you're like, oh, well, I guess I'll just do it by myself again. right? As soon as you do a prayer, you're really saying, actually, I would like help. And you're open and receptive to the help that's always flooding into you. And it can take any number of forms. Gretchen. Okay. Heather's saying, can you go through the different bodies using His Holiness as an example? And Gretchen is saying, what if you understand what you say and the teachings, but it's difficult to get there? Just keep going, Gretchen. Don't give up. Don't give up. So Heather's asking about going through the Buddha bodies using His Holiness. And so the disclaimer is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, for us, is seen as a Buddha. He's seen as Chenrezig Avalokiteshvara. We actually can't take another person's measure. We don't know who is a Buddha and who isn't. We don't have the clarity of mind to make that assessment. Sorry, puppy. Oh. If you need a cuddle, please cuddle him. And so, okay, so that's the disclaimer, is that we have a belief that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is the Buddha of compassion. Whether that's the case or not is a very debatable point, because we cannot see clearly with our karma. Okay, that disclaimer having been said, I say that to prevent cultiness. Yes, it's very important that we prevent cultiness. Okay, so His Holiness looks like a sweet old Tibetan man, right? He looks like a sweet old Tibetan man. To some people, he looks like a brilliant, sweet old man. To some people, he looks like an old-fashioned, sweet old man. To some people in the Chinese government, he looks like a demon, right? So there's just a person there. We can all agree there's like a human being body there, but how he's perceived really depends on the karma of the person. So that's true of everyone, not just His Holiness. And I think it's helpful to know that, because, he's so universally celebrated. And at the same time, there are lots of people who don't like him and disagree with him. And then we're surprised that there are people who don't like us and disagree with us. And we're not even His Holiness. We're just a regular person. Like, we're like, if you only knew me, you'd love me. It's like people know His Holiness and don't love him, and he's amazing. Right? So anyway, that aspect, the human being aspect of His Holiness, we could say roughly is a form of his Rupakaya, but it's actually coarser than that. That's the ordinary aspect he takes in order to be relatable. If we were to see his full Nirmanakaya aspect, he would look like thousand-armed Chenrezig. I'm looking for thousand-armed Chenrezig. Or four-armed Chenrezig, like the Tanka back here. So he would look like radiant white with 1,000 arms. That would be his Nirmanakaya aspect. That makes sense? So, yeah, it's tricky, but basically emanation bodies and enjoyment bodies are for others, and the way they appear is based on the karma of the person. Short answer. Okay, so back to it, and then we'll do a little meditation. Okay, so here's your summary of how to meditate on emptiness, okay? To realize ultimate truth is emptiness. We start with dependent arising, the reason why things are empty, okay? And this is really going to keep you out of the nihilistic extreme. If you remember, we're always talking about the emptiness of something, right? We're not just talking in a vacuum like nothingness. No, we're not saying that at all, okay? So everything is empty of inherent existence because it dependently arises. That's the king of reasons. And so to say dependent indicates that things exist in dependence upon other factors. Arise means that something is arising due to its relationship with something else. So if the proper causes, conditions, parts, and process being merely labeled all come together, then a phenomena can arise. There's nothing that arises independently. Everything is dependent, yeah. So to say that something is dependent negates the idea that it could exist under its own power, right? To say dependent means it cannot exist in and of itself, out of nowhere, from nothing, spontaneously divorced from context. To say that something arises negates the other extreme view of nihilism. So it's there, it exists, it's arisen. Yeah, it's not like there's nothing there, it's just there's nothing independent there. With me? Ish. You might need to brew, okay? So why do we need the wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence? And how is it developed? So when it's conjoined with the perfection of concentration, it leads to the profound realization that is the direct antidote to suffering and cyclic existence itself. And it's developed through first a correct intellectual understanding, and then repeatedly meditated upon, conjoined with calm abiding, and then it becomes an actual realization. So there's some misunderstandings out there, like concepts are bad, or conceptualization is bad, or having thoughts is bad. And it's a funny kind of misinterpretation of some Dzogchen teachings or some kind of New Agey something. Who knows how it got built into philosophy, but it's actually not Buddhism to say that. You actually need thoughts. You need conception to get beyond thoughts, to get beyond conception. You have to think real good to stop thinking. Right? You have to think real accurate to get beyond the problematic way of thinking. So that whole thing in the Heart Sutra of correctly and repeatedly meditating on the five aggregates, you have to know the correctly, then repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. And the really amazing thing about the mind is that through repetition, a mental factor or a thought can become a main mind, meaning it kind of colors every other thought. So a very basic example is if you know you're going to go on vacation in 2 months, that knowledge informs all of your other miscellaneous choices until that vacation. Right? There's some food you're not going to buy because it's going to go off. There's some plans you won't make because you're going to be away. There's choices that you're going to make because you know that vacation is coming up. So it's not like you're neurotically thinking, I'm going on vacation, I'm going on vacation. You're not like thinking of it in words constantly, but whenever a decision comes up that might be affected by you going away, you remember. You're like, oh no, I can't do that coffee date, I'm going to be on vacation. So if you realize emptiness directly and perceptually, it influences all of your ordinary everyday thoughts. And then you don't have any fuel for afflictions. You don't have any fuel for negative states of mind. Someone is badly behaved, you don't get angry. Someone is super kind to you, you don't get attached. You just content equanimously. Joy is accessible to you in any context. It's going to be great. Let's do it. Yeah. But this is what we understand by realization in the most basic of forms, is that through repetition of really clear thinking on the meditation cushion, off the meditation cushion, it becomes so fundamental to our thinking that we can't forget it even if we wanted to. Yeah. Okay. Questions before we do the meditation? Any additions? Perhaps too many words for a Sunday afternoon, but thanks for bearing with me. Yeah. Okay, do you want to do the meditation? Okay, well, so what we're going to do is we'll use the Heart Sutra again, and then when we get to the mantra, and when we get to, well, at two portions, we're going to pause. We're going to pause at form is empty, emptiness is form, and then we'll keep going, and then we're going to pause at the mantra and do a visualization that goes with the mantra. So get yourself into nice meditation posture. And just thinking to yourself, I'm going to meditate on the Heart Sutra. I'm going to meditate on emptiness in order to cut negative habits of mind, in order to pierce the veil of ignorance, so that I can be more effective, more joyful, more kind, all the way to enlightenment. So once again, we'll recite the Heart Sutra, and we'll just do it at a gentle pace, really deliberately, not rushing. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagawan was dwelling on Vasavulcha's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. And so we'll launch our analysis with a quote from His Holiness. That form is emptiness means that the final nature of a form is its natural lack of inherent existence. Because they are dependent arisings, they are empty of an independent, self-powered entity. That emptiness is form means that this natural lack of inherent existence makes possible the forms which are established from it, independence upon conditions. Since forms are the basis of emptiness, emptiness is form. Forms appear as like reflections of emptiness. Allow those thoughts to impact your mind. Become curious about them. Reflecting on Thich Nhat Hanh's commentary. Form is the wave, and emptiness is the water. You can understand through that image. The Indians speak in a language that can scare us, but we have to understand their way of expression in order to really understand them. In the West, when we draw a circle, we consider it to be a zero, nothingness. But in India, a circle means totality, wholeness. The meaning is the opposite. So form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Is like wave is water. Water is wave. Because one exists, everything exists. So Rinpoche says, when Buddhists talk about emptiness as the basis of our being, we don't mean that who or what we are is nothing, a zero, a point of view that can give way to a kind of cynicism. The actual teachings on emptiness imply an infinitely open space that allows for anything to appear, change, disappear, and reappear. The basic meaning of emptiness is openness or potential. At the basic level of our being, we are empty of definable characteristics. So make all of that personal, thinking of your own form aggregate, your own body. This body is empty. From emptiness, this body arises. This body is merely labeled by the mind on the collection of parts, the elements, the limbs, the organs, the skeleton. If you look, you will not find any part of the body that is independent of other causes and conditions, or any part of the body that is self intrinsically. Is that true? Do a search. Is there an independent aspect of your body? Is there an identity that can be found within it or in control of it? In the same way as your body, your feelings, your discrimination, compositional factors are empty. And from emptiness come those feelings, those discriminations, all those compositional factors, consciousness itself. And so allow your mind to explore how it seems like feeling is independent, like discrimination, recognition, discernment happens all by itself or from you independently. How consciousness seems to be self, or the thoughts seem to be self. Allow that sense of independence to arise, and then be curious about it. Where, though? How, though? Continuing. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi so. And so supporting your wisdom, visualize Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front, radiant golden, and connect with him as the embodiment and representative of your own outer and inner refuge, potential of your mind, the support from the Dharmakaya minds of all the Buddhas. And visualize Prajnaparamita at the heart of at the heart of Shakyamuni Buddha. Connect with her as the embodiment and representative of outer and our own developing inner wisdom. She is radiant yellow with 4 arms, seated in the Vajra posture. And at her heart, visualize the syllable Ah. Surrounding this is the Heart Sutra mantra. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. And so whether these 3 concentric beings appear clearly, or you have a general impression of light, feel the presence and support of compassionate wisdom, awakening your inner wisdom, responding to outer wisdom, a collaboration with the divine. Let's recite the mantra together while visualizing infinite light emanates from the mantra, imagining oneself and all other sentient beings gaining a realization of emptiness. Go take, go take, Sangate, Bodhi soul, Taya, Ta, Go, Te, Paru, Go, Te, Paru, Sangate, Bodhi soul, Taya, Ta, Go, Te, Paru, Gate, Rasangate, Bodhi, so, Tanya, Tao, Gate, Gate, Mang, Rangate, Ang, Sangate, Bodhi, so, Tanya, Tao, Gate, Gate, Bang, Ring, Gate, Bang, Ring, Sangate, Bodhi, so, Tanya, Tao, Go, te, go, te, hum, ring, go, te, hum, ring, sum, go, te, bodhi, soul. Light continuing to emanate out. Ripening the wisdom of all sentient beings. Mantra dissolves and absorbs into Prajnaparamita. And she dissolves and absorbs into Shakyamuni Buddha, who dissolves and absorbs into you, blessing your body, speech, and mind. When we continue, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharivati Putra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, and happy practicing. And we'll dedicate together the merits of the session. Jantu Sencho Rinpoche Yampa Panam Ke Gyojia Ke Pan Yamba Me Pa Yang Gon He Gon Du Pelwa Sho Gari Rawe Koe Jingam Dear Pendong Dewa Malu Jung Wei Ne Genre Ziwan Tenzing Gatso Yi Shape Site Badu Tengu Chi. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll continue with the Heart Sutra next Sunday. And maybe I will see you Friday or Saturday before that. But happy holidays. And thank you so much again for inviting me. Such a full community.